species of Variformin's been extinct since the Cretaceous period. I mean, this thing isn't this thing. What?
Ah! Were you scared?
You did. You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
That way I could play the dominant predator.
Say again. We have a T-Rex.
Great, now I have guilt.
We're gonna make a fortune with this place.
Hello and welcome to the Cinebums. We have Luke here and John as usual, and our producer Jake, and also my brother is back on the air with us.
Hello.
I was waiting for him to say something there.
Sam Neill impression.
A little bit.
No, not really.
Yeah, you weren't able to be there for our Spider-Man 2 episode, which was too bad. Because what a good episode it was. But
yeah,
you know, it's good you're able to be here for today, which is of course Jurassic Park by Steven Spielberg and Sam Neill. It's their movie.
Yeah, if I couldn't be there for the greatest blockbuster, at least I'm there for the second greatest blockbuster of all time. Because that is 1A, 1B in my book, two of the greatest.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, so we're gonna be talking about Jurassic Park because of the new film that comes out. When's the date for Jurassic World? Not like we're trying to like really.
Yeah, this is no endorsement for the Colin Trevorrow Jurassic
World. This isn't
World
trying
3.
to be that much of an endorsement. I'm just like, it's an excuse to talk about like a good movie. Is really what it is.
And it's the return of Sam Neill and
there you go,
Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum.
The trio, the greatest trio.
Is it just those three that are in the new one?
Well, don't forget the long-haired Asian guy from the lab. He'll be there too.
Oh,
yeah,
BD Wong. Is that him?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, BD Wong.
Probably. Yeah.
Dr. Henry Wu.
Yeah. I did, when I first saw the trailer, I did like, get kind of, mind-numbingly happy when I saw that they were back in the movie. Despite how much I know, like, deep in my heart, how bad this film is going to be, and that they're going to look so stupid in it. But yeah, man, like it's like that Hollywood, drug of nostalgia that they're all feeding us repeatedly, that you can't resist sometimes as you like for things that you grew up with as a kid. I guess that's a good segue into things we've been watching lately, because there's a couple things I've been watching lately that I like completely align with that exact theme. The first would be Kenobi. I think Kenobi, a Star Wars story is like the full title. But yeah, like I can't, like when I saw Ewan McGregor is coming back, despite how much I dislike most of Disney Star Wars shit. And
that's the one to watch,
Yeah. I haven't watched a single Disney Star Wars show, but I tuned into this because Ewan McGregor is like my Obi-Wan. He is my Obi-Wan. I think he's just so great. I love him so much as the character, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. And so I'm watching it, and it's not bad. I'm enjoying it so far. It's sometimes maybe bad, but not too bad.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of that the other day. I thought the timing of the opening scene was a little problematic, where it starts out in like that Jedi classroom, and then the next thing you know, clone troopers come in and start shooting up the place.
Jesus Christ.
And that was like the same week as the school shooting.
This is like a little for prequel nerds, like they put you on the ground of the attack on the Capitol and really show you more than you've ever seen. And yes, John, that is very much, they dropped that the week after school shooting.
That was pretty rough.
Yeah, I've definitely, in all my years knowing about the attack on the Jedi Council, have never thought of it in terms of a school shooting, but it is what it is, except it's like if the United States military was doing it or something like that.
Yeah, true. This wasn't a lone wolf operation.
But yeah, did you see? Did you get a kick out of Benny Safdie in that Inglorious Bastards like opening scene?
Yeah, I had no idea he was in it. That was
you didn't know that was Benny? But yeah.
I knew it was him when I saw him, but I didn't know
right.
that beforehand that he was going to be in it.
Right.
And that was just shocking in itself to be like, that's the Safdie, the Safdie guy.
Yeah,
one half of the Safdies.
One half Saf.
Yeah. He's just probably on set like, I'm happy to be in Star Wars. I make very different films. You know, like
a Safdie's brother or Safdie brothers Star Wars movie would be pretty cool though.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see it like in those underground like district areas.
They should just do like one show or like one mini series directed by them.
Right.
It's just like totally, they do whatever they want, and all the kids on Disney Plus can't see it. It's only you have to be 18 plus to see it. You know, that would be cool.
I was actually thinking about this before we started podcasting. It's kind of a bid, but like, you know, like every Jurassic Park character is like you know, so memorable, and you know they have all these spin-off shows for Star Wars, so I'm kind of like, why doesn't, you know, like Dotson, the man who's trying to steal the eggs, have his own like spin-off show on his whole enterprise, you know? Like,
dude, he might be in the new Jurassic World, you never know.
Like, I'm that into, you know, I'm into Dotson enough to like, if they actually did it on Paramount Plus or whatever, I would do it. I would check it out.
Yeah, there could be plenty of spin-offs in the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World universe.
Yeah.
The guy who's the hunter in the original movie should definitely have like an origin story to see his upbringing and why he's so fucking crazy.
Right. But yeah, that's Obi-Wan. That's one thing I watched that was based off nostalgia.
Something I watched kind of out of nostalgia, not as much as Star Wars or Jurassic Park, but Norm Macdonald has a posthumous special that just came out on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
That he recorded in his living room. He's just like in front of his iPad that's just recording him, and he's holding a mic. But he's wearing a suit like he wore like probably back similar to like what he wore back in like the 80s or 90s when he first was on TV or something. And it's pretty sad. It's funny. It's very Norm Macdonald-esque, all his jokes. It's like he literally is just recording it like on a whim in his living room, and he gets a phone call during it, and he answers it, and he's like, I'm filming this comedy special right now. I'll call you back. And he puts his phone away. His dog starts like going crazy at something outside at one point, but it's all still in there. He does it all in one take. And I'm a huge Norm Macdonald fan. It was like many people, gutted when he passed away, and it was very sudden because no one knew he was sick, which is also a Norm joke where he talks about killing Hitler, and then someone tells him that Hitler died, like 70 years ago, and he's like, oh, I didn't even know he was sick.
Right.
And so, so it's the Norm special from his living room, and then the last half hour is like Conan, David Letterman, Molly Shannon, Dave Chappelle, Bandler, and David Spade. They're all just like in a room just talking about Norm. And that part was kind of awkward, honestly. It's like all these comedy people, but from like they know Norm from like different
very
ways
different times,
and in different times in his life and stuff. And honestly, like David Spade and Adam Sandler had like the best anecdotes to have because they were like like really good
they were
friends.
there during that time too, like the prime time, right?
Yeah, exactly, like SNL and all of that. And whereas like Letterman and Conan had great like bits about him, but it was all just when he was on our show he
on
did
the
this.
show, right?
And then Dave Chappelle, like I feel like he didn't really know him that well.
Yeah, they just wanted to have Chappelle on there.
Yeah, exactly. And then Molly Shannon, she had great things to say too, like personal things to say about him too, but she kept getting talked over by the other guys. But
of course,
yeah. So it was kind of awkward, but it made me want to just see like Sandler and Spade and like the SNL guys from the 90s just like tell Norm stories. Like that would have been great. To hear that. But because they both had some just like
Norm
funny stories
used to
about
do
him.
that.
Yeah. Oh
or
yeah,
hanging out with Norm.
he was he would he did this crazy thing when we were on tour. Yeah, they were talking about him on tour and stuff, which is like like the actual person Norm, not the talk show guest Norm. But yeah, it was nice. It was good. It obviously like his special wasn't something that he would do like in a theater. Like it was still a little rough, you could tell, and he would just forget where he was going with something. But he also was fully aware that this was probably going to be his last chance to do a comedy special. So it's really sad. And I was nostalgic just from being a Norm Macdonald fan and loving everything he's done recently, especially. But it's really funny, and it's still nice to see people talk about him at the end, even though it's a little awkward and self-indulgent. But I would recommend it.
I don't have anything nostalgia based per se besides Jurassic
it doesn't
Park.
have to be.
I wish I could follow the thread, but sadly I cannot. But David Cronenberg has a new movie coming out on Friday, which I'm very excited for, called Crimes of the Future. And it's been getting a lot of buzz coming out of the Cannes Film Festival. And so I've been kind of going through my Cronenberg gaps, the ones that I haven't seen. He's one of my favorite directors. He's great. And I'd say the most notable one I've watched in the past 2 to 3 weeks was A History of Violence, which is probably more of his most well-renowned movies, especially past like the 2000s. So that was a big gap for me. I was very embarrassed.
I watched that with Dad when I was really young. And
Dad's a
pretty
big
intense
fan of that movie. Oddly, it's a very.
I did not get it as a kid, but I just remember it being really dark, like really real. At least for when I was a kid.
It's kind of satirical when you watch it as an adult, like a lot of Cronenberg movies are. It's based on a graphic novel, so a lot of it's very heightened and sort of animated, especially Vigo mowing down multiple people at one time. But I think it's an incredibly powerful movie. Vigo's incredible in it, and then Ed Harris and William Hurt, who have like really small sort of villainous roles in that movie, are both just insanely good. And I think William Hurt got nominated for an Oscar. But this kind of History of Violence started this trend for Cronenberg, like post this movie, where he started making these sort of crime, slightly comedic dramas, I guess is the best way to categorize them, that have a lot to say. Usually he's known for body horror and sort of this very medical approach to his filmmaking. Very fascinated by like the human body and the human psyche. So it was interesting to see him like veer off into different genres and stuff. And History of Violence is what sparked that. And I think it's one of his best movies in his whole catalog. And if you guys haven't seen it, or if you want to rewatch it, it's a really rewarding watch, and just like a perfect movie from a script perspective too. Like everything's so tight and perfect. And usually his movies can become like self-indulgent or sort of like spinning their wheels a lot, And I found that movie just pitch perfect on every level, and really made me hyped to see his fourth collaboration with Viggo Mortensen. So yeah, History of Violence.
Nice. Yeah, I've yet to see History of Violence, but yeah, I've been wanting to take a deep dive in Cronenberg because I've seen Videodrome, The Fly, Scanners, but I think that's it. I haven't like gone, taking that deep dive into Cronenberg, but now's a good time since this new one's coming out. Seen some good stuff about it.
Yeah, totally. People are saying like this is kind of like a culmination. He made a movie in 1970 called Crimes of the Future. I think it was like on a shoestring budget, and he kind of had this like idea of like a sci-fi horror, futuristic, like dystopian horror movie. So it's like 50 years in the making now. So I'm glad he finally got to make something that was in his brain 50 years ago. It's super cool.
Oh, it's nuts.
Yeah, I'll definitely revisit History of Violence now, because now you're saying it's like a masterpiece, and really it's just this weird movie I watched in my memory with that. So
yeah,
on a random, but I remember being really into it, and really invested, but I did not I just did not understand it totally, I guess. So it's definitely not a movie for a kid, so I should definitely watch it again. All right. So my next film, based off nostalgia, you can jump on this too, Jake, because we saw it together. It's probably my favorite movie of 2022. It is Top Gun Maverick. We saw it last week at the Universal City IMAX Theater, and it was amazing. I had really high expectations for Top Gun Maverick, but I did not expect to see it and for literally almost everything in it to work for me. I was pretty much every performance, I thought everyone was really killing it. I thought it's in every way, it's like a better quality film than the first one. And obviously the flight sequences are incredible. And it has a third act action sequence which takes you on the edge of your seat, and then it leaves you feeling very emotionally moved. And so this movie goes hard as fuck is basically what I'm saying. The way Tom Cruise movies do nowadays. And so yeah, I definitely recommend someone seeing it. It's definitely it's so good.
Yeah, the best way I describe that movie is extremely cathartic, because the first movie, well beloved by people that grew up with it, I suppose, but for our generation, I feel like a lot of people are just feel it's pretty hollow and kind of repetitious and kind of silly. And this is Tom Cruise and all of his team, the directors and writers he has around him, coming together to sort of just culminate this insanely well done and well realized action movie, taking bits from the original, but also the Mission Impossible movies and all these great modern action movies, and to deliver such a satisfying product and just extremely emotionally satisfying. Like you were saying, the end with the Lady Gaga song, it's just so, it's pure cinema, him just flying in a plane and hearing Lady Gaga blare in an IMAX theater. It's, in the words of Tom Cruise, it's great to be back at the movie theater, and that movie really solidified that.
Yeah, John, we were with a dude. We went to see this movie with a dude who cried at the end of it. That is how powerful this movie is.
Shout out to Josh. He's probably
a guy sitting right next to me, this guy who got our tickets for us, planned this whole event, just wept.
He was straight up
as the
weeping.
Credits rolled.
Tears of joy for sure.
And I did not really, when it happened, I didn't really totally blame him at all. I was I get it. That was pretty insane. So yeah, this movie is really, really something else. And it aligns with the fact that we're doing big blockbusters lately,
Exactly.
that's what and this is just another one, it's just a huge blockbuster that is perfect in every way. I forget what's that's from. It's from something.
It's from Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, it is.
I had a little brother.
Yeah.
Perfect in every way.
Which, by the way, speaking of like reboots and big franchises, I'm pretty sure the new Mad Max like prequel just started production recently. I saw some headline about that, Furiosa.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone and their mom is seeing Top Gun right now. I feel
Everyone
like I'm
and
the
their
only
mom,
one.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And yeah, I'm going to see this in the theater for sure, but I haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, I've just seen so much good stuff about it, and literally everyone I know has been talking about it. So yeah, I gotta see it.
Yeah, Jake,
what's the soundtrack like? Curious, like, is it back to like the 80s?
It has that similar theme going. The da da da.
The chime. You hear like the chime,
like that happens a lot.
There's like chimes, when like dun, dun, like it's the.
Who doesn't Zimmer do some of the score?
It's Zimmer and
Zimmer, yeah.
Zimmer and Lauren Balfe do the music, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just a very high quality, heart pounding, inspirational score.
Sweet.
Mission Impossible-y,
Yeah, like feels like out of Fallout, something sort of similar music towards the end there.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna say, Jake, like, since you don't know this, John's mom's favorite movie is the original Top Gun.
Oh man!
Wow, you have such a great memory. I can't believe you.
So
that, yeah.
This was a big weekend for her.
Yes, this is. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to have her on and hear her Top Gun Maverick thoughts.
Yeah, we'll zoom her in and get her thoughts. Yeah, that, like you said, Luke, watching History of Violence with your dad, that was Top Gun, my mom, which I actually don't think that I've ever watched Top Gun with my mom, but yeah, for some reason that's her favorite movie. Yeah. And I've also never seen her watching it either. But
yeah, I remember you saying that too. Yeah, I remember you saying, I've actually never seen her watch it though.
That's great.
But she always talks about how it's her favorite movie, so I believe it. Yeah, but it's one I assume before she had my sister and I that was something she watched all the time. Yeah, and then and then kids came around and that took up her Top Gun watching time. But
right.
Yeah.
Before she had hopes and dreams and watched Top Gun, and then it all just fell flat.
She was gonna make her own Top Gun reboot, but she had to become a mom instead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
I thought I'd throw that in there.
That's
great
funny.
Pull. Yeah. Good callback to like an episode maybe 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, or something.
Damn. Yeah. Good pull.
But also, Top Gun Maverick had the new Mission Impossible trailer playing in it, which is, while it's streamable on YouTube, it's still great to see in the theater because it's all
so good.
You got to see it big, so fuck yeah for that. And that movie, of course, looks fantastic. I have no idea what it's about, but like it's not about that. It's it's Mission Impossible 7 or whatever. And I really just felt after like Mission Impossible Fallout that I felt like with Top Gun Maverick I was in the same hands as that, like I could really trust the people at the helm to give me the goods. And I feel the same way with the next Mission Impossible movie. So I just feel like Tom Cruise right now is just a movie god at the moment. Yeah,
he's hit his stride ever since he made like Mission Impossible 5, because he kind of found, like I said, he found that team of people that do everything with him and kind of heighten. It's kind of it's like an artistic approach to every movie. Like they feel really similar,
Yeah, there's such an attention
awesome.
To detail and immersiveness, and
the camera works feels very just deliberate, especially in Top Gun. Like they studied that shit for a long time.
Yeah,
So
and say what you want about Tom Cruise. Obviously, he's a madman, but like he clearly knows. He's like clearly a movie like genius. Like he just knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
good hands.
He's just kind of one of those insane guys that he just pulls off things that the vast majority of human beings can't. But yeah,
like
actually,
I know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. All right. In a way, I'm like anti like whatever you think. Like in real life, I'm anti almost everything like what Top Gun stands for.
That's the thing.
But when I'm watching Top Gun Maverick, I am genuinely like worshiping like Tom Cruise in it. You know, like I believe, like I was like, wow, Maverick, he's so amazing, Maverick. He's so fast. he flies so fast, and like you just fall into everything, you know, because like I love good movies. You know, I love. That's basically what I was saying. What were you gonna say, John?
Well, I was just gonna say I have another family anecdote regarding
Top Gun.
Top Gun and Tom Cruise. My cousin is in the Navy, and he knows some of the guys that were on the aircraft carrier that like they used for the movie.
Okay.
I don't know if it was.
Nice.
I have no idea if it was just for like part of it or whatever. But they said that Tom Cruise was kind of a dick to them, so that they weren't going to go see the movie. I don't know any of the context. Yeah, he's probably yelling at in that clip of him yelling at people about COVID. It was probably
your cousin.
Yeah, I don't know any of the context behind it, but I could see him being just like super serious about what he's doing. Obviously, like in that clip, he's he's like a crazy person, but he just takes it so seriously. Yeah.
I have one more Top Gun Maverick anecdote before I hand it over to the next movie. When I was working on this production in March, and I was very sleep deprived, and I was hanging out with the other COVID PA who was very sleep deprived. You know, we're browsing the internet and we're watching the clips of like them, you know, making this movie and assemble it, you know, using real like pilots and flying the actual I don't know, are they B-50? I forget what they are, man. B-52 planes, whatever the hell they are. High quality airplane fighter pilots, and we're just watching all that stuff and talking about the movie, and we were going like, we had in our head convinced based off of like just the idea, you know, how Tom Cruise does everything in his movies, like usually, you know, he's hanging off the plane, he's on the Burj Khalifa, he's riding the motorcycle. We thought, okay, in Top Gun Maverick, like all the actors are flying the planes. That's what we like. What we were convinced was happening, and we talked about it for probably like 30 minutes about how insane that is. And then like our boss just out of nowhere, like after he finished with his calls, was just stopped us. Was like, guys, they are not flying those planes. like the amount of time it takes to train, like to fly one of those planes, and plus like the liability, like, you know, nightmare it would be. Like Tom Cruise definitely has flown a plane before, but I think the logistics of having actual real life actors flying those planes for every take is actually, like, if you really think about it, but one of the most ridiculous things you could think of. So I just thought that was funny, because he was like, you think they're gonna let Miles Teller just fly these planes? Like,
hey, he learned how to play drums for Whiplash.
Yeah, that's that's exactly what I said. I was like, he's a method actor. He played drums. like they don't let them fly the planes after like 6 months of training. You know, like it takes more than that. Like it's usually like the best fighter pilots in the world, and
it takes a lifetime to learn to fly those.
And they're also handpicked as having amazing reflexes and whatever, and they train their whole lives. So yeah, it is. There's just no way any of these actors were actually flying the planes.
Yeah, I think even to fly just like those little tiny aircrafts that you just go around your area, whatever, like you need hundreds of hours before you can actually get licensed or anything. I'll go with something that I watched for the first time, which, I'll just go ahead and say it. For the first time ever, I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is a movie that has been recommended to me, as you can imagine, all the time by people, but not in like
Right.
a nice way. It's one of those movies that I've said I've never
Like, what
seen
the
people.
fuck? You
People,
haven't
yeah,
seen
people freak
John?
out.
They like shove you, yeah, like they
Yeah,
start bullying you.
yeah. My boss at my previous job, he referenced it and said some quote, and I was like, I don't know what that's from. And he's like, it's Spicoli, and I was like, sounds familiar. And he's like, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I was like, oh yeah, no, I haven't seen it. And I swear, for like an hour, he berated me on how I've never seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So I finally seen it, although I was hesitant to for years, just out of spite, out of not wanting to watch it because of other people's reactions. But I'm glad I did. It was a fun old, good old 80s high school movie. And I was in the mood for that at the time. I was thinking about something, to watch something a little light, like a high school 80s movie. I think I had just seen, like, I haven't watched Stranger Things, but I think I saw like trailers for that, and I was like, oh, I kind of like that, those
That's
vibes.
kind of like Fast Times. Maybe I'll watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
Not watch the Stranger Things. I'll watch
something completely different. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's in high school in the 80s, so that's the only similarity.
Right.
But yeah, it's a fun movie. I really loved the opening where it just opens on this, like,
you got
mall.
the beat.
Yeah. Speaking of nostalgia, this is a very nostalgic movie.
Totally.
Although I never lived in the 80s, there's still some, the 90s had a little bit of that trickled in there. But just seeing a shopping mall that was like bustling and had that music going on was very nostalgic. It's a young, what's her name?
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yes, thank you. Young Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Sean Penn, of course, as Spicoli, the infamous Spicoli. Good old fashioned 80s high school movie. It was a good time. I feel like I'm one of the last people in the world to probably have seen it.
I actually also haven't seen it, John. So
wow.
So
you haven't seen it, dude?
So I'm used to getting. Man. I've gotten those same reactions.
So you can empathize.
I didn't see it for the first time until last year, so I guess we're all late on the on the times, as they say.
I'm glad this is a safe space for people who are late to Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, I was really blown away by that movie, actually. Like, especially how I kind of expected it to be on the lighter side, like you said, but there's some really dark themes in that movie, like with the whole abortion thing, and kind of like obviously it's more of a stoner, like a high school comedy at its core, but they're like, it went in directions I didn't expect, and I was just really into the characters and the whole world that movie presented. And Sean Penn is just, I think that's like my favorite. It might be heresy, but I think that's like my favorite Sean Penn performance. Like, he's so well realized and just electric in that movie, and also one of the first things Cameron Crowe ever wrote. So that's another fun fact about that movie. There's just a lot of talent, like young sprouting talent on that movie for sure.
All the characters are very specific and and unique, and I thought that's actually a good point. The whole dynamic between, I don't want to say too much, but Jennifer Jason Leigh and I can't remember the guy's name, but he plays himself off as very confident and like he knows everything, and then and then the other guy, of course, I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Who's also great in Fast Times is Judge Reinhold, who's from like Beverly Hills Cop, and he plays Neil in the Santa Claus. And I just love him.
He's in Fast Times.
Yeah, he's so
That's one of my favorite guys.
Oh,
He's so funny.
You're gonna love this then. Yeah.
He's working at like a fast food place and he's just getting super fed up. And Nick
Right,
Cage,
I've seen that on TV.
I don't know if you noticed, John, if you saw Nick Cage had a quick little cameo in that fast food scene. But yeah, he's just such a hilarious character in that movie.
Yeah, he is. He's very like confident and goofy and I mean, he's in love with his car. Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, for the longest time, I only knew him as Neil, the guy who with the funky sweaters and the Santa
funky
Claus.
sweaters. Yeah.
Wasn't until I got older that I realized all the other great things he's done besides that. Yeah.
Yeah, Bernard is so like enamored. He's like, nice sweater.
Nice sweater.
Did we make this sweater? I remember just as a kid being like, why does he give so much of a shit about the sweater?
He disappears. Like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Runs out of the room.
Yeah.
He's so good, man. Love Judge.
Yeah, that's a film on the future agenda. Fast Times for me to watch, and Santa Claus for Santa Claus to talk about.
Definitely. I'll talk about Jackass 4.5 because I think that's relevant to our time, and also one that's weirdly sticking in my head because Jackass Forever was a knockout in my opinion. Probably it still will remain in my top 5 of 2022 as the year goes on. And if you guys aren't familiar with the 0.5s, they always release them like months after the film is in theaters, and this one happened to drop on Netflix, and it's kind of like all the pranks they didn't show in Forever, but also like behind the scenes stuff, interviews. Did more of like a introspective look into Jackass, which is funny. But yeah, getting to see how this movie was made, because it was kind of a shock to a lot of people. They were making a Jackass movie, and it's funny because like they just kind of were like, all right, we'll do some stunts and see if they work out, and then they'll incorporate them into the movie. So they kind of went on a whim and just started doing shit. And I don't know if you guys remember from Forever, but there's that stunt where they try to leap over a bunch of them in a row, and they kind of land on them. It's like they're doing a jump
or whatever.
Yeah. And that was like the second thing they did they showed in 4.5, and like, oh shit, this could really work. We have a lot of great stuff up our sleeve. And Steve-O did like some shit where he put like hot sauce in his ass and stuff, and just all this crazy stuff as like a test. And then they were like, all right, let's just make another movie. This kind of like highlights all the behind the scenes shit, and how they found the new people. So it's like a hybrid of like a documentary, but also new stunts and whatnot that they were doing. So that was really enjoyable as a huge fan of Forever, and was really heartwarming actually, because you gotta they were just like seeing them reunite after all this time, and to see like how excited the newcomers were, because like I love the new cast so much. Like I still follow them on like Instagram and stuff to see what they're up to, and to see how excited they were to go on Forever was really, really just awesome to see. And to see them do like the intro with like the whole attack on the city sequence, which was really cinematic and crazy. To see the behind the scenes of that was pretty great. So if you love Forever, you got to watch 4.5. It's on Netflix, and it's a quick 90-minute, and you actually learn a lot about Jackass and how it's made and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I also watched 4.5 the other day.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that I think this is the only, I knew that they would do like the 2.5, 3.5 things, but I think this is the only one that I've actually seen of those. But I liked that they had little anecdotes from the cast and Spike Jonze and Jeff Tremaine and all of them too.
Right.
Throughout it, that was just cool to get those insights and all the work that they put into what seems like such a stupid and silly thing, that there's actually so much that goes into it. And they were like, when they were talking about ideas for that scene, I think they were talking about the opening scene where Chris Pontius's dick is like
right Godzilla
or whatever. They would say like anytime Spike would open his mouth with a new idea, millions of dollars would just pour out. And they just had all these like big ideas for it. Yeah, that was really cool to see. Yeah, and I like that you got some more of the new people, like Dark Shark is he's such a great like character to add to this universe. And then that whole skydiving bit was pretty great.
Yeah, Jasper and his dad, they were such a bright spot of Forever.
Right.
So they had this whole skydiving thing that's just incredible. I don't want to spoil the stunt, but it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, really funny. And
definitely you can watch this.
Fun fact, the skydiving instructor in that is the same skydiving instructor from Nathan For You.
Oh, wow.
Episode,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's great. Yeah.
But yeah, nice. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's for any Jackass fan, it's like it's a good love letter to all of the 3.5, 2.5 are kind of like a B-side to a great album, you know, just like more of what you love, and also just kind of more information overload, which is always great.
Yeah, Jackass Forever is one of my favorite films of the year, and so like I definitely wanted more at the end of it, but not necessarily more stunts, you know. So like this is kind of the more I'm looking for, you know.
Exactly.
Like, a more intimate, like insiders look, pretty much.
Or
I'm down to go
get
one
into
more
it.
around the bend.
Let's do it.
I'm actually like, by only going one more around the bend, I will say I'm leaving some things out, but they will come up again on the show.
Ooh.
So it's like, you don't want to like just, you know, talk about fucking everything all the time. You gotta like, you gotta, you know, edit yourself. So I'm gonna stick with the fighter pilot theme from my last one. And I am gonna talk about my rewatch of Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, which I had a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to talk about it because it was like a really amazing rewatch in a like kind of, you know, like a bad way, of course. But like, you know, like I'm leaving out things that like came out like this year or things that I've seen for the first time to talk about my rewatch of, you know, kind of a trash film. Because I was just like kind of glued to this thing. Like, I just couldn't believe like everything. I don't think you will find a more like a serious World War II movie with like a giant budget about like one of the most historical events ever.
A tragedy.
It's
like a tragedy
a tragedy. Like missed the mark on like so many levels. Like not only in tone, like tone wise, this is this movie acts like war is like going to college, and that all the nurses that are you know, like taking care of your minor wounds, like not like you can, you know, you can't die, you just get minor wounds. All the nurses also happen to want to fuck you as well.
All the horny nurses.
And there's a constant, and there's a constant flirtation between the nurses and the soldiers, not like as if they all don't have a high demand of things to do. And it's totally, of course, it's totally Michael Bay that makes the first like whatever 2 hours of this a flirting romance like movie about these hunk pilots. And there is no reason for like, it's definitely trying to like be like, okay, let's be like Titanic, let's tell a big epic that is a love story, but I'll put my own like tone onto it. And it couldn't be more of a miss. Like I think that is one of the biggest like comparisons I would make to this, is that it's trying to be like Titanic.
Oh yeah. It's like historical tragedy disguised as like Hollywood epicness and romance and just a Hollywood lens, you know. But Cameron pulled it off, and Michael Bay kind of shit the bed. So it's like he failed.
Yeah, which also makes Titanic that much more impressive to me.
Totally.
But yeah, also the like portrayal of the enemy. The Japanese are portrayed like they are a Marvel villain, where they are like it basically starts out and like the Japanese are just like, the Americans cut off our oil supply. We must attack Pearl Harbor. They will never see us coming. And then it just shows them like getting ready as if in like, and the music playing is like, I don't know, it's like a football practice montage while they're getting ready. And I guess above all that shit, the biggest thing is that in the end, like, you know, of course the movie takes the most pro-American stance on the attack. And I thought the movie was going to be, you know, like almost over after the attack. But of course, it just goes on for like another 30 minutes to an hour of them like trying to attack back at Japan.
Yeah.
And as it, like, to give you some sense of satisfaction that you really don't need. And it's not like a significant, I don't know if it's a significant attack that like we would know of either. Like they're not showing like Ben Affleck dropping the atomic bomb.
Yeah, it's not like Hiroshima
like that,
or anything.
Which I actually thought would have been hilarious.
That would have been great if Ben Affleck drops the nuke on Hiroshima.
Right. Affleck Dr. Strangelove rides the bomb down into, yeah. I thought that would have been great, but yeah, I mean, this movie just overall, I think it's just like unbelievable that it exists in the way it does, that it has such an absurd, ridiculous tone, but also has clearly like the biggest budget, and
Huge.
It turns this like this tragic war thing. And like we've been to Pearl Harbor, and John, have you been to Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I've been there too.
We've all been to Pearl Harbor,
so
we've all had first-hand experience to know that this is a very sad place. Like when you're there, you're just like you're like, they don't say this, but they're like, you could still see the bodies under. No, they don't say that. But like, there's like oil popping out of the water, and like this is where the Arizona was. It's like right below us, and you're like, oh
yeah,
god,
you can look down.
Like, this is yeah, you can basically look down and sort of see it, and it's like really sad. Like when you're in Hawaii and you're having such a fun time, that quick trip to Pearl Harbor is definitely like a downer, you know, kind of like, I wish I was drinking pina coladas at the resort or whatever. Anyway, yeah. So basically, that they turn this tragedy into an action movie that is supposed to be pretty cool at times. Not really for that, because it's supposed to be, you know, I guess it's fictionalized version of, you know, something that actually happened, but still, it's something that should be taken seriously, of course.
Yeah, I still have yet to see Pearl Harbor, but yeah, I mean, just based on what I've heard about it, what you talked about it, it seems like a fairly ridiculous movie. But Hollywood can take any sort of, you know, tragic event like that and and try to spin it into something cool. But yeah, that's interesting. The last one I'll go with is I see that Jake has seen this. It's George Romero's Creepshow from 1982.
Love that one.
Yeah, and this was great. Creepshow is like horror anthology movie, and it's got a great cast too. I didn't know any of these people were in it, but you know, Ed Harris, Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson, Hal Holbrook, with maybe my favorite of the anthologies being the Leslie Nielsen Ted Danson one.
Same.
Yeah, that one's
extremely disturbing one.
Yeah, it's fucked up in a psychological level and just creepiness level. It's so good. But Creepshow is a great time. It's these great, you know, horror vignettes. And I just has such a distinct style too, throughout all of them, but they're all very different stories. I forgot to mention too, Stephen King stars in one of them as well, where he's real fucking weird. Yeah,
he's so bizarre in that.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was him at first either. This is such a weird looking guy. And then the more it went on, I was like, I now I know why I know him. That's Stephen King.
Like know him from somewhere, of course.
Yeah.
He was definitely in his like drugged out phase, I think, when they shot that movie.
Absolutely.
He looks a little wired out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a human being in that. But yeah, and I also just loved the style of it. Every now and then there would just be like this shot of a like creepy house, and then there'd be this sort of like design around it that looks really creepy and cool. Or I think in the whichever anthology where the it's like the dad wants his cake or something like that, and all the different like shots of of him and his daughter, and like they have these frames of like blood. Like it's such like an 80s horror thing that I just thought was so cool, just throughout all these different images of all these shots with like these cool weird little frames. That was just a nice touch. Really enjoyed Creepshow. I forget where I watched it. It might be on Canopy. But yeah, that's it's one that kind of slipped under the radar for me. Didn't know much about it, but I thought I had seen like the Creepshow thing. I think they maybe made it into a show a few years ago. Did they? Okay. Yeah.
My friend told me it's very good, but it's nowhere near the original movie. So, but I heard the second Creepshow is actually pretty solid, so maybe that's worth checking out as well.
Nice.
I don't think it's Romero though, but yeah, I love a good horror anthology, and I think that's it's pretty top tier, like it's everything you want out of a anthology for sure. Really experimental too, like you're talking about with the shots and the editing and some weird like animations that they do throughout it. Yeah, it's super cool. And Stephen King wrote all of those too. I don't know if that was based on a book, but yeah, anything he does in the 80s is going to be wild and a little bit scatterbrained and crazy. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course all the production design was all pretty incredible too, all the practical effects and whatnot. So yeah, that's Creepshow. It was a good one.
Yeah, glad you watched that. It's a great Halloween watch too. I watched it in October and it was very unsettling and creepy. It's good Halloween vibes.
Definitely.
Yeah. My last one, I will go for a really, really fun theater experience I had recently. Kind of sort of in the vein of Top Gun Maverick, but I was back in Chicago recently, and I was celebrating my friend's birthday. And Chicago is also home to, I'm sure you guys have talked about the Music Box Theater on here in the past. It's a incredible revival theater, and I was really itching to go, and I convinced a few of my friends while we were out in some Wrigleyville bars and stuff, usual Chicago night. And I was like, guys, they're playing Shrek at midnight at the Music Box. And somehow I convinced about 4 or 5 of them to join me because I just had to go while I was back. And it turned out to be like that Rocky Horror Picture Show type of screening. I don't know if you're familiar with like the kind of involvement of the crowd with the movie where everyone's kind of reciting every line by line. And there's like really weird performances that happen throughout the movie from like real life actors on the stage. So it was just like a really bizarre. Yeah, it was crazy. So like I mean, like during certain musical numbers, like they would like during the Smash Mouth numbers, people would get up there and just dance. Really bizarre shit. But if anyone has done like the Rocky Horror experience, it's really similar to that. But yeah, it was awesome to see with the crowd, man. Like everyone singing all-star line by line. You could tell that the crowd kind of grew up with Shrek. Like they all seemed like our generation where Shrek was a huge deal. and knew it line by line and knew like kind of every beat to the story. So people would cheer. It's like the fight scene he has, like the wrestling match he has in Lord Farquaad's compound and stuff like that. It was just a really fun, kind of nostalgic trip at one of my favorite theaters in the world. So it was a really memorable night. And yeah, it's I don't know if I've ever seen any theater play Shrek at a revival theater. So it was kind of like a once in a lifetime sort of thing. Man, and remind me how perfect Shrek is as a movie still. So yeah, it was a good time.
Nice. That sounds fun.
That'd be hilarious if there's like one guy in there who had never seen Shrek. He's just like all that's going on. He's like, what is Shrek? He's just still
yeah, not the right approach to see a movie like that. Yeah, because people were like screaming lines, and like normally it would have been super annoying, but we were pretty intoxicated, so we were with it. We were just going along with it, and it was really fun.
Yeah, I know someone who went to a screening of Christmas Vacation with, like, they took their mom to a screening of Christmas Vacation and said that it was awful just because everybody is just saying the lines like before, during, and after they're said. Like everybody who's there has seen the movie a million times. So yeah, I could see how that can be really annoying, but that seems like a really fun time, what you're describing.
Mm-hmm. If you get in that atmosphere and that state of mind, it's a great time. Midnight on a Saturday, and everyone's just a lot of nerds and drunk people there. So it was easy to kind of just assimilate into that.
Well, we also rewatched Jurassic Park. So yeah, now we get to talk about that. Because like we said, the new one's coming. So there's no more delaying of it. I don't know. I guess we could start with I know obviously how Jake. I'm not gonna ask, like, I'm gonna let Jake talk obviously, but like I know how Jake grew up with Jurassic Park, but
yeah, you were
John,
there firsthand.
Yeah, we both were there around each other experiencing it. But John, I want you to know. I want to know how you grew up with Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Well, to quote Luke from last episode, he said, Jake and I know the shit out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So you set the expectations high for this episode. But yeah, my experience with Jurassic Park, I remember the first time I watched it was with my neighbor growing up. We were best friends. We were born a day apart. We lived right next to each other. So I remember I was at her house, and I think her older brother wanted to show us Jurassic Park or something. So he and I was probably 4, maybe 5 at the time, late 90s. And yeah, so we watched Jurassic Park in their living room, and I remember being terrified out of my mind. It was for sure the scariest movie I think I had seen at that point in my short life.
I would say the same for me.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And there were plenty of times where I was I have these vivid memories of hiding behind the couch at certain points, especially the infamous T-Rex scene. So yeah, that's for some reason, not all movies are this way, but this one for sure, I specifically remember my first viewing of Jurassic Park, because it was so memorable, and I remember being so scared. And then getting older, being like a teenager, thinking like, I can't believe I was so scared by that growing up. And then now that I'm even older,
isn't scary.
Yeah.
It's like a movie. It's like a 6-foot turkey.
Yeah. It's clearly not real too. Yeah.
Sam Neill comes into John's house. The raptors come at you.
Yeah, they come at you from the side, John. You don't understand.
Yeah. Just like that kid. Yeah. And then as I became an adult, I was like, oh my God, this is really scary. Yeah. Going back to being understanding that this is
running back behind the couch.
Yeah. And nowadays I'm back behind the couch again.
Back behind there.
Come full circle in my Jurassic Park viewings.
Yeah, even in the opening title frame where the music's like, you're like behind the couch, like
what's happening? What's happening? But yeah, that's so I do actually remember the first time that I watched Jurassic Park, and it was definitely memorable. It's one of those movies I feel like it's easy to remember just because there's so many memorable scenes, and it's just like it came out early 90s. It's like perfect for our for our generation growing up, being one of the first big movies that we see. So yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia in this episode. In this episode right? Today. Yeah. But yeah. And then I've seen it countless times since. And I also remember in that same living room, my friend's living room, watching The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 as well. So
you like there's another one? Oh!
And those I thought were just as good as the original back in the day too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was
I think I thought even better, like each one got better for me. And that's just the way I thought as a kid. Like each new one was the better one. Whatever was the newest one.
Yeah,
about
Star
anything
Wars,
too.
Star Wars was the same. Too. Yeah.
Attack of the Clones is way better than Phantom Menace.
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith, maybe the greatest Star Wars movie at the time.
And then I was like, there's no way you could top Attack of the Clones. Like, how can you do that? And then Revenge of the Sith did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Luke might have to refresh my memory because I think I was so young when I first watched Jurassic Park, because Luke was probably watching it on TV probably weekly, and I would just kind of scurry in and watch a few scenes, and I really
did see it very young.
Yeah, and I think it feels like it's one of those movies, kind of like the first Star Wars and a few other things, where I feel like I was just born having seen it, because I think I was like 1 or 2 years old probably. And you were talking about the music, that opening title. Like, I have vivid memories of like humming that music and remembering like the whole, just like the and then the T-Rex and all the classic scenes that you'd remember as a kid. That all feels just imprinted in like me as a toddler. So yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to remember.
Yeah, I, like John, remember my first time watching. And I think it was like maybe my first PG-13 film at the time, which, was a big deal. You're like, I'm seeing a PG-13 movie. And I think I watched it with my dad, and maybe my mom as well. And they, of course, like, they knew like every scene to cover my eyes during. So there were some scenes that I probably didn't see for like, I remember not seeing them for years, because my eyes always were supposed to be like, I was always supposed to turn away. Like, I never saw the lawyer get killed for maybe my first couple years of viewing it.
The Wayne Knight thing.
Wayne Knight, when he got killed as well, I was supposed to cover my eyes. So those
I always
were
just
like
heard him like, you
just hear him. And that even Newman probably makes it more scary, I think, just like not knowing what happened.
Not seeing what's happening. Yeah. only hearing. Yeah.
I think it has the opposite effect. But
yeah.
And I just remember like I was just getting into that phase too, where you're like, I had all these books on dinosaurs for kids. I had just learned that like what paleontology was as a job. And I remember going to like science museums where you could pretend to be a paleontologist as a kid, and you could like scrape all the sand off the bones. And I remember going to Disney World, and they had a whole pit in Animal Kingdom where you can do that. So like when I saw this movie, it was like the perfect time, like, because I was a dinosaur nerd at the time. So I like, this was like one of the biggest events for me, just I think, to be able to see this movie, because like even if this movie was shit, it was going to be a huge event. And like this happens to be an amazing, one of the most iconic movies ever. It's like the go-to dinosaur film, of course. And I think also what makes this movie like a first watch like so memorable is that each scene in it is so memorable. Like experience it for the first time, it's all so iconic that, like we said, we have those, like we all remember how it like begins. Like I remember specifically sitting there and watching the opening titles and the music beginning, and it was just so nuts. Like just seeing the logo, I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be insane. This is just gonna be insane. And witnessing that opening scene and not understanding at all what was going on. And like when you see the, like when you first watch this movie and you see the Brontosaurus for the first time with Sam Neill and Laura Dern, that sticks with you because they're experiencing it for the first time. It's just like for everyone. Like I think our parents have told us like before, like when we watch this movie on TV around holidays, they're like, do you remember when we saw this in the theater, honey? And like the Brontosaurus scene, like they remember it. Cause like imagine being in the theater, like it's gotta be such an incredible moment and thing to experience, and seeing the T-Rex for the first time, and just not only like, I don't know, just in terms of like that impact of that scene in the movie, but also just how it looks and how it's never looked as good as that. In terms of dinosaur CGI and practical effects, it's just pure amazement. Like Spielberg's like not only telling a story with great characters, but he's just bringing this like idea we've had in our heads to life better than anyone has. So it's like just like a it's like, I don't know, it's like similar to like, I don't know, someone watching like a spaceship take off or something, like like some big world moment in like just in a scientific advancement or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off what you were saying about like the perspective of watching it. Like you mentioned our parents and how probably mind blown they were. And as we were all talking about like our first experience with the movie as kids, like it kind of makes you realize that this movie is Spielberg's culmination of what he's always wanted to achieve, which I think is like making a kids movie that is perfect as a kids movie and you can watch as sort of a roller coaster ride, like a perfect one, and then as an adult a very layered and John says his audio
we're good now.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, as an adult, this movie is, you just see how extremely layered the writing is and how thought-provoking the world he's creating is. Like this is is dealing with some really heavy themes about humanity and some extremely important questions that Goldblum brings up in that dinner scene. And yeah, I think that's what's so magical about it, is that dual perspective we have on it as such a memorable kids movie that was like really formative to all of us. I think we all fell in love with movies partly because of Jurassic Park, but as an adult, really, I think it's just the perfect movie again to just be introspective about not only filmmaking but the world around you. Like it's just, to this day I ponder a lot of questions that Jurassic Park brings up, and the same cannot be said for any of the sequels, but definitely in the first movie. So
yeah, isn't it like crazy too how this movie's like, it's like, I don't know, it's used so often as like advertisements for like just movies in general. Like if you watch like old DVDs for like like say you're watching even this DVD or the next Jurassic Park, and you're watching Universal's like little like little trailer montage of like all its movies, it uses the images of like, uses like the T-Rex scene like to death, like the roaring of it as like watch movies, watch Universal, you know, like this is what we have. Like this movie, like it's almost as if like it was curated by a studio to promote like going to see movies, but like yeah, like I don't know, I just feel Jurassic Park is used all the time as like just in montages of like what movies are supposed to be. Like the final shot of the T-Rex roaring with Jurassic Park coming down is always in something like that, you know?
It's been corporatized a lot. Like even at Universal, they have an entire parking garage and like exhibits kind of promoting Jurassic Park. And like funny enough, kind of goes against Spielberg's entire one of the many messages he kind of conveys with that movie, which is like you can't really.
He kind of like they're making a park about this park that you're not supposed to like. That where like the whole movie's learning the lesson that you shouldn't have made the park to begin with.
You shouldn't monetize.
Universal's monetizing the whole thing.
You're not supposed to monetize nature and like within the movie monetizing art itself, and then the whole world has done it pretty much. So it kind of goes against the movie, sadly. But yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. That's one of the things like that theme we'll get into more as we go through the movie scene by scene. But like, yeah, that's one of the things I take away the most from this. But yeah, we all went through our childhood. And also I remember going back to childhood. I remember whenever Jake got to see this movie, you became very into it. And I remember we shared a room for a while. You know, when times were tough in the family, like, and we had like, you know, an old CD player in our room because
I used to listen to the soundtrack on
you
repeat.
would listen to the soundtrack just laying after school, laying in your bed, and it would just be like, no.
Mostly that first track would just be on repeat.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I kept that CD for years because I would even play it on my Walkman when I was like 10 years old. I think I had it for the first like 10 or 12 years of my life.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a more perfect like pairing, you know, like in terms of seeing the Brontosaurus and that song, like just in terms of expressing wonder and all that, you know, it's just amazing.
Speaking of that scene, I had this thought when I was watching it, when Luke and I watched it. Do you guys think that's the greatest thing Steven Spielberg has ever accomplished in his career? Is that scene in like a nugget? Because as we were saying about like just what he wants to accomplish as a filmmaker, expressing awe, but also raising just a million different questions about our world at one time. And just the music and everything working in like harmony. Like, I think that's next to like some things in E.T. and maybe Raiders and Jaws. I think that's the single greatest sequence he's ever put together as a filmmaker.
Well, I really like specifically how that scene is bookended. And the pacing and like just the lead up to it and the aftermath. Like you said, the raising of a lot of questions that it leads to. And then before the questions that I guess just the lack of knowledge, not even knowing what to ask, like, you know, like Dr. Grant's like, what kind of park is this? Like everything's so vague, you know, like you don't know anything. It's just like the guy literally says, I own an island, you know, and off the coast of Costa Rica, I have a plane standing by a channel or something like that. Like, and he just said, you know, it's all so vague, like it's right up your alley. Like they get into the park and there's like high security fences that as they get in, you know, and they're like, you kind of see Dr. Grant like looking at them, like wondering what they're for, and like they have no idea, you know.
You think they might be keeping something horrific and dangerous out, which they technically are, but the first thing they
definitely are.
is just beautiful. And
well, yeah, in the context of it, it is like, it is just pure wonderment. And like we were talking about it as we were watching it, because we've seen this a million times, so we notice things all the time. But like the lawyer specifically is speaking to Richard Attenborough in the Jeep and going like, he's like, this is not like some weekend getaway. Of course, it ends up being one for him, briefly after. But he's like, this is, to
safety protocols. Yeah.
He's like, this is a serious investigation for the security of the island, and he says like, like he basically says, hey, just wait till you see what I have in here. You guys are all gonna go crazy. Like he's not even really like John Hammond isn't focused on addressing any sort of concerns at all. He is just like, to him, everyone coming to the park is like, see what I have here, see like what I've done. He's really trying to show off more so than like answer liability questions, which of course is a mistake we see later.
Yeah, it's all about the spectacle. And I forgot about his running joke throughout where he goes, spared no expense.
Spared no expense.
Yeah. But going back to what Jake was saying about that sequence, I think what's so great about this movie too is how Spielberg builds anticipation without, showing you much at first. And I think that's the first like major scene in that, where you're just on them in the Jeep and everybody's just like slowly turning and in awe, and then you still haven't seen what they're looking at,
and like them,
so
you don't
drawn
know.
out.
That's the thing,
it's so drawn out, and then the music starts and you see that
some of the greatest reaction shots in the history of movies is Sam Neill and Laura Dern's face, and some of the best acting in any Spielberg movie I can think of is them sort of slowly rising out of their seat and just kind of at a loss for words,
taken off of the sunglasses. Laura Dern's shocked face as well, and then Sam Neill collapsing.
Sam Neill has like a heart attack, basically. He's like, it goes into cardiac arrest as the greatest line of the movie is delivered. Welcome to Jurassic Park. It's just such everything is working so perfectly.
Every line, as he covers around, everyone's reactions, like Jeff Goldblum saying, "The tremendous son of a bitch he did," and Sam Neill like seeing that there's a whole herd of dinosaurs like coming out of the river, and he's like, they do move in herds, like, my life's work is like come to this.
Richard Attenborough too. I think this time around I was like, he's the MVP of the cast. He is so, I think Luke brought up, he's kind of like the quote unquote Willy Wonka.
He's very Willy Wonka-y.
And you could see they took inspiration from like how he's kind of zany and a little mysterious, but he has this kind of big empire-minded persona, kind of like he's like a stand-in for like, I don't know, like an Elon Musk nowadays, where they're just kind of a much more down-to-earth Elon Musk, I might add, but still like this
like representative, he actually has really good intentions and stuff,
a little overly ambitious, but they have he's at least good-hearted and just wants to build something incredible for the world. And obviously, things take a turn.
I want to jump back to the first scene because we went right to the Brontosaurus scene. Mainly because the first scene I really like, and it kind of aligns with the, like the whole idea of when we first saw this too. And I think it like, it's just, I think it sets up the movie perfectly. Just like the whole like safari like vibe that the music kind of gives you, and then all these men with hats. It's really like nothing. There's no way of a child understanding this scene. Just a bunch of like men, like industrial looking guys in hats staring out into the woods, and knowing like what they are about to do.
It's kind of he teases you because you see trees moving, you think it might be an actual dinosaur, then it's a crate carrying a dinosaur.
Exactly.
And that kind of tells you all you need to know.
The crate is very like it's definitely throwing you off, and we see what is the hunter's name? Whatever the hunter's name is.
Let me pull it up so we could have a name.
Yeah, he's kind
of deserves a name.
We'll be talking about again, but he's in the middle. He's kind of running the show. He's got like a shotgun or whatever. They're all armed.
His name is Robert in the movie.
Okay. It's not what I was expecting, but anyways. Robert
Muldoon.
Robert is a badass and a great Spielberg just archetype.
That's him, right? That's the guy.
Yes, that's definitely the guy.
Just want to make sure.
Very, very distinct facial features.
Robert Muldoon.
But yeah, then so like there's like the velociraptor's in the cage. He's kind of like squealing at the one guy just because he gets close to it. I mean, like right off the bat there, like the sounds of the velociraptors specifically, which I'm sure are still being copied by the Jurassic World crew to this day. The sounds that the velociraptors make are amazing, like so good. And Jurassic Park 3 kind of bases a lot of its movie based off just the sounds of of the velociraptors.
It's kind of it's a little bit like Jaws in the first movie, the first sequence too. It's kind of like this, you never see
you don't see the
monster. You just see the humans reacting.
But it's a very scary scene.
Terrifying. You just see a man being pulled away by like God knows what, and you're like, okay, there's something.
Right. And they're all like shooting into the cage. They all have like stun guns or whatever.
Shooter.
And he's holding the guy, and the image of the guy's hand going out of his arm, and that like the dissolve like to something else, like that is such a haunting image. And the whole scene is just perfect because it's kind of what the whole movie is wrestling with. It's man trying to very greedily and haphazardly control nature, and
play
like
God.
kind of.
Oh,
you gonna say?
No, I just said play God.
Oh yeah, play God. I thought you said like something. All right, play God. Exactly. But and they're paying for it, as they are clearly like that guy definitely died or something, and then so at the expense of this man's dream, they clearly do not have great working conditions, as you see.
It's like it's such a timeless thing, it reminds you of like the Egyptians building the pyramids, or just man being overly ambitious in the expense of other people's lives. And even in more of extreme case, like this movie could create like world domination of dinosaurs. You never know. And it's just like it toes the line so smartly with overly ambitious. That's why I don't want to jump ahead, but that scene is so important to the movie. And
I think that's what people are really like, I don't know, maybe not everyone, but like I've met people who definitely don't appreciate, and again, they're not like movie buffs or like cinephiles or anything like that, but they definitely don't appreciate the first as like a clear superior to every Jurassic Park film. And I think it's because they're just not as into the like just this idea that like they are into more the fun running away from dinosaur shit, and not that like at what the core of Jurassic Park is originally about. And it's like like just that this movie is like, basically we're just saying that this movie is really fucking smart, and that's why one of the reasons why it's really good. And I guess another reason why it's really fucking good is because the characters are so fantastic all the way through and so memorable all the way through. Which is another thing that the Jurassic Park movies over the years really try and fail to do, which is create just characters that are very memorable.
Dr. Grant's introduction is so seamless, like how much you learn about him and just that exchange with the kid. You kind of see that he's kind of like a disenfranchised guy. Like he's obsessed with paleontology. He doesn't really know how to interact with any human being if it's not about dinosaurs.
Right. Yeah, he's really old school. Yeah, and he clearly like he's kind of has like a he doesn't know how to talk to anyone like throughout this. Like he's very standoffish, just like as he's meeting everyone. And like it takes a while for him to actually like open up as a guy. Like it takes like after the T-Rex scene. It doesn't take till like after the T-Rex scene where he's like finally
life or
like
death stakes pretty much
opening up. Right.
Yeah.
I guess we could talk about Jeff Goldblum. Just
of course we have to.
His intro.
Chaos theory.
He's like, I'm a K-itician or whatever the hell he is.
I never remember.
Yeah, I still don't fully understand his like resume and background. But
right.
A conspiracy theorist with a podcast, pretty much.
Exactly. Like modern. He's like a modern, like a. If he existed today, he would be on like the Joe Rogan Experience talking about chaos theory. Definitely.
That's true. That's so true.
I guess what we need to get to next is like the essential backstory to how they did it. Like which I always like even like this cartoon video in the like sort of like their like behind the scenes like look at how they did everything. Like this cartoon video, like I remember always like everything about it from as a kid. It like ages even really well for me.
It feels like you're at a field trip as a kid, like at a history museum, and they show you like a really informative quote unquote video. It has that same energy, but like a really, really smart exposition dump that like needed to be put out there. So it's a really it's a good scene.
It utilizes its setting to show like that's how they would show this if this were a real park and everything.
Exactly. I like even just to how the Mr. DNA talks. He's like, millions of years ago, like dinosaurs.
The thickest southern accent you could think of.
We use the DNA of a frog to complete the code. Like just like all of it. And then they start.
Anboro is really like Willy Wonka there too, because he's kind of like
right.
He's interacting with like a cartoon character. He's just having such a great time with that in that scene.
And so then they like stop the ride because they want to see the fertilized eggs or whatever. And
the boy BD Wong introduced to that scene.
BD Wong is there. They're turning the eggs, and Jeff Goldblum starts to be like, he starts to ask questions, like, you know, because everyone like that. I think that's what's so fascinating now is like watching this as an adult, is watching all the characters like wonder how they're doing it, you know. And then when they find out how they're doing it, like what they think of that,
immediately like take issue with how they're approaching it.
And like Laura Dern's on the ride, like, where do you get like the DNA of like dinosaurs or whatever, blah blah blah. And Jeff Goldblum's like, don't you see the, like, he's like, wait, so you like he says, we simply deny that, like BD Wong says, we simply deny them the like ability to be a male or something like that. And Laura Dern's like, you deny them that? Like, and they start to like raise, I don't know, like ethical questions about nature and stuff like that.
The scene's also really important with Hammond kind of witnessing the birth of the raptor, because that's where you really see his admiration for science and kind of his creation, his baby of Jurassic Park. Like his performance is so good because you just feel
I also
this
think that's
love.
I think it's really creepy watching him hold the Velociraptor.
It's like what John said, man playing God. Like that's kind of like that image right there is exactly what he was talking about.
It's really creepy watching him tickle that baby Velociraptor as it's born. It's just like, this guy's out of his fucking mind. He's
That's back in the Willy Wonka territory of being really eccentric and creepy. Almost evil mastermind,
and then also Laura Dern's acting in that scene specifically is phenomenal. As she is also like, they're all like tickling this little Velociraptor, I swear, and she's also like just staring down at it. She just found out dinosaurs like existed again, like 15 minutes ago. Then she found out how they did it, and now she's watching one being born. Like,
she's raising ethical dilemmas, but the spectacle of everything is distracting her from all that shit she was bringing up before too. And the same goes going for Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're even entirely raising any questions yet outside of Jeff Goldblum. Like, if we want to get nitpicky, like, I feel like Goldblum is the one who's more so pushing all the like conspiracy questions, and then they're still in the mind-blowing wonderment of it.
When Sam Neill finds out there's raptors, he's definitely
the scene ends with him finding out that it's a Velociraptor.
He's like, there's carnivores that are being caged in, and that's gonna raise
which is his all-time, like, it's like his life's work, and also like life's fear is like Velociraptors.
They're coming to a crossroads,
and now he knows they exist again. Like, it's crazy. It's like, I don't know, it's like, say, like, it's like Jamie Lee in Halloween finding out that Michael Myers is alive again or something like that, and she's spent all her time like being like, this is how you kill them, or this is how he attacks you, or something like that. It's somewhat along those lines, except he's like, it's just kind of crazy. But like, I love the cut to, like, he's now just staring at the raptor cage where they keep them. And it's lowering a cow to feed them, and he's just like, I gotta see this shit. And Hammond's trying to like lead him away from this, lead him towards like lunch. And almost as if he like it's almost like he doesn't want them to see this entirely, because it is like an ugly like scene where they kind of just go at this cow in the cage. And then our guy Robert comes out from the opening scene, and he's like, they should all be destroyed. And
no subtlety to his character introduction at all. He's saying exactly what he wants to occur throughout the movie.
Right, yeah.
They'll all be destroyed.
Him and his guys have been at war with it, like with them probably the whole time. Like he's probably like, these Velociraptors are such a nuisance, like, to have. But like, then Dr. Grant immediately goes in asking like just all these questions. He's like, we clocked them at 70 miles an hour. Like, they were testing the fences for weaknesses systematically. And it's just a good scene. Then we go
to lunch.
We go to the lunch scene, and Laura Dern is like looking at her food, kind of sick to her stomach, because she just watched Velociraptors eat cows.
It's such a good cut.
It's a really good cut. And that's when we get, like, which is one of my favorite things in the movie, which is Jeff Goldblum's monologue about life finding a way is with BD Wong. This is that's a different monologue.
This is him talking about that
is the monologue about
acquire any discipline to obtain the greatness of what he achieved.
He's like, you spent so much time thinking about whether you whether you could. You didn't stop to think about whether you should.
And all the people working for him too.
Yeah.
Kind of puts them on the same blanket. Yeah.
It's like you spent so much time to do something as fast as you can. You didn't take the discipline to acquire it, all that stuff. Yeah. And like before you even knew what you had, you put a place you package it up,
they patented it, they packaged it,
and now you're selling it, and it's
genius.
It's really good. And I think it's even too good for people to understand like right away after like just even also being mind blown by seeing the dinosaurs in this movie for the first time, to even like be ready to have these sort of philosophical moral questions about Jurassic Park, the park itself.
This scene too, I love the way it's shot and staged. Like it feels like they're on a stage and they're being like watched by an audience or something, the way the lighting is happening. And like Dean Cundy, who shot this movie, I just want to give him a shout out. Like he's an amazing DP. He worked with like Zemeckis, Carpenter, Nancy Meyers, funny enough. He's worked with so many interesting people, and this movie just has a really distinctive look, and like especially like the interior stuff too. Like there's kind of where Spielberg found out about how much he likes this white beaming light kind of going on, and I think this is where he's sort of, because like there's a scene too in the control room. There's a lot of like spotlights kind of beaming into the camera, creating these lens flares, and they look just so cool. And this scene is kind of where that starts, so I wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, and this scene, I will also like, just to go off that, John and I in our Spielberg summer, I'm pretty sure we saw a lot of that white light stuff, and
War of the Worlds,
the 2000s ones, like Minority Report.
Minority Report is a lot of it. Yeah. The AI,
but also in that, in that dinner scene, the lunch scene, we have the lawyers going like,
we'll have a coupon day.
We could charge anything, 2,000, 10,000 a day, and people will come. And like, it's funny how much he's flipped the switch to from being like, like, we're not sure about, the investors aren't sure about the park, John. And now he's all like,
he was representing the investors to begin with, because he's like protecting their money. But then once he realizes this is like a big ticket financial gain, he's like immediately joins John's side. It's like the definition of a blood-sucking lawyer, just jumping from the biggest, most financial gain that he can sort of get his hands on. So yeah, that's just such a smart character.
Yeah, I also think he just does a good job in general, that actor. Like I don't know, like, we remember all the other ones, of course, more, but I think the lawyer he does a very good job. Like, I always, before he gets, eaten up, like, I always enjoy him just being around as one of the gang, even though he's like a villainous guy, he's
a scumbag.
Like, he's like he's kind of like got necessary, the charm, to him as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as soon as they see the brontosaurus in the beginning, we're gonna make a fortune on this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it cuts from all, like, as we said, it's all perfectly set up. Everyone's reaction. We're gonna make a fortune from this place.
He does a complete 180 to what he was monologuing about like a minute ago.
Yeah, that's all the characters, even the side characters, are so well defined in like their commentary on humanity and society that of course, like you said, the lawyer would I don't know, just a stereotypical lawyer would flip the script like that. Yeah.
Right.
Next is the tour starts, right?
Yeah. So then the kids come, and the tour. What I love about the tour is, it's kind of like very important to Hammond, because it's like, and like the people who work behind here, because it's like it's a simulation of what the park will basically be.
It's like a dry run for
it's a dry run. So they're like seeing what, how this is going to work. And so, and they even get into the nitty gritty of the technical side of it. Like, Sam Jackson and Wayne Knight's character being like the technical guys, and like how much they really have to do on a computer side in order to make this happen. But first, like, we meet the grandkids. One of them being one of the dudes in the Social Network that I remember us talking about that, John, in our Social Network episode. And it's also like this movie just is very much about, like, weirdly about Sam Neill, like, warming up to kids, like in the middle of all this, you know, like it's also very much about that. Like,
it's the thing that grounds him is that he's like opposed to kids, and Laura Dern's sort of on the opposite side, and they're kind of like represent his greatest fear, even like as much as dinosaurs. That's why it's so great. Like he kind of repels against the kid Tim, like moving out of the cars, you know. It's kind of like he fears it almost as much as dinosaurs, as being a father.
Yeah, like there's a scene later where whatever the girl's name is, she like
Lex,
starts,
I think.
Lex just starts holding his hand. The hacker, yeah. As they're going to the Triceratops, she just starts holding his hand. Like she won't let go, and like Sam Neill's face is like he's looking at her like, why the fuck are you holding my hand? It's just like hilarious.
So funny.
Yeah, and then there's even that when we're getting to know like Jeff Goldblum's character a little bit more, and of course Jeff Goldblum has kids. He's like, yeah, 3 kids.
3 of them.
Love it.
I love kids.
I love those kids.
Love kids.
Which is hilarious because he's like a really like, I don't know, he seems just like an off dude, and like he's also like very wild and like cynical too, but yet like, me? Yeah, 3. I love kids. Yes. I'm always on the lookout for a future.
Future X, he's like a future X Mrs. Malcolm or something.
Yeah, he says a future X Mrs. Malcolm.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, so then that's probably playing with Sam Neill's head a little bit, where he sees that, you know, he wants to keep Laura Dern around, but then there's this guy who does like kids, and he's very confident in that. And
right. Yeah. It plays on his insecurity about him not liking the kids, but so obviously the tour begins, and they're all in there. I love how the lawyer, Jake and I mentioned this while we were watching, the lawyer is sitting with the kids, which I think is hilarious. Like,
it's so weird.
Like none of the adults like want to like none of the like the trio, the main trio at least, wants to sit with the lawyer or the kids. So they're like kind of it's like the unpopular car in a way. And they get to that iconic gate, and they enter the park, and they're like, on your right is going to be Dilophosaurus, which Wayne Knight meets later.
Yeah.
And they're all like, Dilophosaurus. So they get to the Rex thing. They're trying to get the Rex out of there. It's not coming.
The goat.
Yeah, the goat's there. I guess we should get to some of the behind the scenes things.
Yeah, we gotta mention the dudes back in the.
We meet Sam Jackson, who is Mr. Arnold, the chain smoking head of tech or whatever for this whole park, which is just an insane job.
It makes sense why he always has a cigarette.
Yeah, it does. And I love Wayne Knight's where he's like, you have butterfingers, Dennis, and he's like I'm completely underappreciated. He's like, you could run this whole park from one computer. He's like, do you think that's easy or cheap? And he's like drinking like a Diet Coke. And he's like, do you know anybody who could do it? Like, he's basically just saying, do you know anyone who can know what I do for like what you're paying me? And it's like, you know, it's basically just like clearly leading to that, like his motivation for stealing the eggs. You know, he's underpaid.
Like, he has financial debts probably from doing crazy hacking shit. Who knows? Because he's like, those are your problems, and he's just kind of like It's like, well, you don't pay me enough. It's like you kind of get their working dynamic pretty clearly from that one scene.
Behind the scenes.
Yes.
Sam Jackson.
It's specifically, it's called, I think, the control room.
Control center.
Right? That would make sense.
Yeah, which I think, they're controlling things there. I just think it's very key to see this in the grand scheme of this movie because just like, I mean, it's what triggers everything to fall apart. Is like this. Laura Dern says later, like that it's all an illusion, you know, this idea of that they have control over this whole situation, and there is clearly a very organized system in place for this place, but like clearly there is like, I mean, I think specifically the gaping hole in this whole system is that John Hammond has a very fed up employee who has a very key job and has too much access to things, and which is, I think, you know, definitely one of the mistakes that Hammond, and I think probably like a lot of major, you know, John Hammond likes in the world are doing too, is, you know, like I don't think you can do those types of crazy innovative entrepreneurial things without, like, you know, rubbing someone the wrong way. And
it's such a Michael Crichton theme, you know, because like in Westworld, that's a huge, I don't know if you guys have read Westworld or seen the movie, but it's like, that's like a lot of what that movie is about, and hinging on exactly what you're saying about the one loophole could just be a person that's a part of the system that's neglecting to be a part of it for some reason or the other. And it's so well done in this movie. And quick about Wayne Knight, I think it's hilarious how he got cast in this movie, because Spielberg, I don't know if you guys have seen Basic Instinct, but he has a really incredible scene in that movie where he's him and a bunch of guys are interrogating Sharon Stone, and that's where this, you know, famous leg turn happens where she reveals herself and he's sweating buckets. And I think Spielberg saw that performance of Wayne Knight and he's like, this looks like a guy who looks like he plays nervous and kind of a crackpot loose cannon just perfectly. And I always thought that he's
really good in this. He's really good.
And then obviously Seinfeld and everything. He was like such a great character actor in the 90s.
And we didn't cover the opening, his character introduction, just the Dodson.
Yeah, so good.
We got Dodson here. The one of the most famous memes from a movie for sure.
Nobody cares.
Yeah,
that whole punchline became pretty big.
Yeah, and just like, I'll never get tired of it. Like, we were talking about this when we were watching it, like when Dodson's like explaining how he's gonna transport the eggs, and you know how like he gives him the money and how he's like, this is how you're gonna transport them. Like Wayne Knight is just laughing so much. He's just giggling so much, and you can't really, it's like kind of hard to follow what Dodson's saying because he's just, it's kind of distraction.
Deliberately so, I think.
But I love it, you know?
Yeah, I think so. Later, then the whole process of his heist is, you know, fresh in your brain. You know, it's not, because it isn't not an exposition dump. It's kind of like, oh, this is how you transport the eggs, and we see how he does it later on and everything. And that's that scene's always a crack up too.
Yeah. Yeah, and he also says at the end of that scene, he's like, don't be cheap on me, Dotson. That was Hammond's mistake. And like that scene cuts to like the helicopter flying to Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's all this drama.
The next scene, I was just gonna say the next scene is the sick dinosaur, right?
Yeah, probably they find the Triceratops. Like right after we're skipping over the chaos theory.
Oh
chaos theory where he's like rubbing Laura Dern's hand and he's like because of little crinkles in the skin of your hand, and it's like it's a great flirting excuse to flirt. I should really like try that as my chaos theory pickup line, you know?
Yeah, that'll go over well, I'm sure. Yeah,
right.
But it's perfect for Jeff Goldblum, though. He's the perfect guy.
It works for only him for sure.
Irresistible Jeff.
Yeah.
I love the next scene too with the rhino, or not the rhino, Triceratops.
Rhinoceros, yeah.
It's technically, fucking rhino.
Dinosaur version of a rhino.
I think it's a big deal that the only dinosaur they see on this tour is a sick one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Like very definitely saying
that's
something.
Key to, them meddling with nature is sort of.
It's like these guys definitely don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, because the one employee who's looking after it is taken over by an outside expert, Laura Dern, and she kind of attempts to heal it back to life.
You can tell Laura Dern takes over the whole operation. Yeah. She's like, he doesn't know what he's doing, you know.
Yeah, they're not equipped.
Dive in. Yeah, I'm gonna dive into the pile of shit and look for the lilac berries or whatever they are.
Now, that's one of the more like wholesome moments before things kind of take a turn for the worse, and kind of like what Jurassic Park could be is like a very invigorating experience for science and healing illnesses and ailments, and like that's a one scene that's kind of a representation of what could be good about the park, even though it's like a sick dinosaur. It's like all these all this bad shit happening, but there is solution, and leave it to the experts and not the people with the money.
Yeah, I feel like this whole scene where they go in through the gate, the grand gate, and the music's playing. It's like, have you ever been on like a ride at Disney World when it shuts down while you're on it?
Yeah.
It sort of takes all the mystique away because you can see all the
it does,
like all this animatronic thing is just repeating the same shit, and then like I've seen a video of someone stuck on Space Mountain where like they turn the lights on, and it's like, well, what now? This takes away from everything. All the magic. Space Mountain, you can see. So that's almost what this scene is like being on a ride when nothing's working and it shuts down. Yeah.
Goldblum says later, he's like, when the Pirates of the Caribbean ride shuts down, they don't try to kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
The pirates don't come and try to kill you. Yeah, that's a great line.
Yeah, because Hammond says the exact thing that John you're talking about. He's like, all major theme parks have shutdowns or something like that. You know?
Tries to justify the whole park.
He's like still like so positive after like it takes him so long to understand, you know, but like he's still so positive. Like Goldblum's there like injured, like bleeding out, you know, like people have died, you know. It's just like insane that he's still thinking like that. But then like the storm begins, which is like a great like just cut to like everything about to change, you know, and this whole everything's about to really fall apart here.
It's a really deliberate, like the climate changes and so does the tone of the movie.
Right. Like because and I think like that's when Wayne Knight's like, I'm gonna go get a soda or something.
Anyone want a soda or something?
Yeah. I was thinking I'd go, and like it's this is I love this scene so much, and he's like, also I debunked the phone, so the system's gonna be going on or off. Like it's just and
nothing to worry about. It's nothing big, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's just a simple thing, and then he just initially like just clicks the button and shuts everything
Shit
down
goes
pretty
down.
much. Yeah, and it actually, like, I think as he's as he like presses enter or whatever on his computer is when like the thunder starts, outside. It's great.
It like cues the weather to change. That click.
Yeah, exactly. And then the music starts, like kind of mysterious music, and they're kind of driving back in the cars, and like as Wayne Knight is stealing the eggs is when like Jeff Goldblum's like, yeah, I love kids. Yeah. It's like just great in between dialogue, like, yeah, I'm always out looking for a future. Ex Mrs. Malcolm, yeah. And he starts stealing the eggs, and then Sam's like, that's odd. Some of our security systems are going down. And he's like, well, he said that some would be going down, wouldn't they? And they're just like completely oblivious. And then like he's like, fences are failing all around the park. And he's like, check the vending machines. And like then they go to Dennis's desk and they try to hack in, and he's like, look at this workspace, and it's like he just shoves it all off, and he realizes, like, Sam realizes that he's locked out of all, like, everything pretty much.
It has that little like animation of
yeah. And Wayne Knight's headed to the dock, and like I think it's crazy just the like stakes that are like there for him, because like he's talking to that guy on the phone, and he's like, the captain says we gotta go, and he's like, no, just give me 15 minutes, and he's like, no promises, and like he's clearly just not gonna make it, but he has no choice, he's just going for it still. And he's getting like lost along the way and everything.
Yeah, his whole plan is extremely clumsy. Like, why didn't he execute it hours before a storm was happening? It was just kind of absurd.
Yeah. Poorly planned on Dennis's part.
Yeah, and I think it also aligns like the power shutdown mixed with the storm and the fact that they can't get anyone like out there, they can't contact anyone, everyone's just now stuck. Like the few people who didn't make the dock, and like the ones who were planning on being there, are now stuck on the island to deal with this shit show alone, and they have nobody to contact or anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, just the click of a button, kind of creates a snowball effect to where every major plot point in the movie is stemming from that.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and it's also harks back to what you were saying about how the system seems so foolproof, and they disguise it as like really fancy and like nothing can go wrong, right? But then just the click of a button from disgruntled Dennis causes the entire thing to implode.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be a great meme out there where it just shows like everything like that went to shit in Jurassic Park, and then it shows like
Jerry
being like, no man, like
I'm sure there is. Yeah,
it really is all his fault, like if you think about it.
Yeah. He's got blood on his hands. Yeah.
And his own hands. When he gets attacked.
So now we get to talk about the T-Rex scene.
Yes.
One that made John hide behind a couch when he was younger.
Yeah. And to this day. Yes, another great reveal there. The anticipation is just
right.
so
You got
high.
the goat being like thrown onto the like
it's like a goat leg,
the goat's gone, like that whole thing, and it's on top of he throws on top of the car, and he's like
completely like dismembered goat. Yeah, it's just completely gone. Yeah, and then the whole thing it's Spielberg magic, where it's just rumbling and people's faces.
You hear like the wires being like torn off,
and the glass on the
classic water being
of course.
That's something as a kid that always stuck with me. It's just that shot of the glass.
Right. Yeah, and that first shot of the T-Rex is like literally like the best one probably of the movie too. Just I think specifically because it's dark and in the rain and just it's like the T-Rex roaring hello to everyone, I am here, it's just so good.
It's smart too, because you said it's dimly lit. You don't see any major like body parts besides like his head and like a giant body. It's like silhouetted almost, like you can kind of see him, and then you can see his face at major points. It's kind of like Jaws too, again, to bring it back to Jaws, where he doesn't show too much, and all the better for it, where it's 10 times more effective to hide key points to make the effects a little bit more authentic.
Yeah, and I always remember the various like beats of this, like how they turn the light on. Yeah, that's how he like knows someone's there, and like Sam Neill and Goldblum are watching the whole thing. He's like, turn it off. You can't. For some reason, he knows you can't. He can't see you if you don't move. Like, because I dig up bones. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah, he knows their behavior too. Yeah,
right.
Don't move.
And also the lawyer runs to the bathroom away from everything.
Yeah. That's like a typical like horror movie trope where one person does something real stupid to get themselves killed. Yeah. And then
leaves the children.
Yeah, she has a great line where she goes, "He left us.
He left us."
Yeah, Lex like repeats it like with anxiety. He left us.
She can't get over it after like 20 minutes that he left them.
Yeah, and then the T-Rex proceeds to attack the car with Lex and Tim because they're shining the damn light in its eyes.
Right. Right. He flips them over, and I do love how like they like Samuel's like, I gotta do something about this, like so he does.
They're like sitting ducks. They're sitting ducks for like 5 minutes because like, what the fuck do we do in this situation?
Yeah, exactly. And so I love the flare thing. I love how right after he does the flare thing, and you're like, oh, that's so smart. Goldblum feels the need to do it like immediately after.
He kind of fucks up his whole move there.
Yeah, it really is all his fault, like the guy, because then he's like running. He kind of does lead the Rex away. He's like, grab the kids as he's running away from the T-Rex.
That's one of the craziest shots in the movie. He's like shifting the flare in each hand as he's sprinting away, and it's just like 2 feet away from eating him.
Right.
He's just like, hey.
Yeah. And then he grabs the kids, and I love when the Rex comes back after Goldblum like falls into the bathroom. I love Lex's
reaction
as it's coming back is just so great.
Also, when the dinosaurs like pressing down on the car, they're basically like sinking in quicksand. That was another thing as a kid that freaked me out. Like they're like about to get buried alive by a car. And it's just man.
Yeah, and the next scene is crazy. Like some of just the next couple things are crazy. Like how Spielberg has all these things that are sort of these little action set pieces that aren't even totally to do with dinosaurs. Like just all the stuff with the car, like trying to get away from it as they're scaling that wall.
Really self-contained like action sequences that are like have a beginning, middle, and end, which he's so good
trying to get away from it on the tree, climbing the fence before the electricity comes, like just certain things that keep the movie moving, on your toes, sort of deal. And poor Tim gets launched into the to the tree, like in the car, it's just insane. I would throw up too.
Tim gets really battered around throughout this whole movie. Starting with that car, and then the electrocution is pretty brutal.
Yeah, that's a good point. What happens next? Is this when we see Wayne Knight?
I think it's I think we see Wayne Knight demise. Like throughout this, he's like trying to find his way out.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go through that quickly. We can go through this now. Yeah, the Dilophosaurus comes and attacks him. and this was the scene I was not allowed to see
Yep.
for a while.
For a long
and
time.
It's a
actually,
scary one,
this scene definitely scares me nowadays.
Still,
I would say this scene and one of the Velociraptor scenes scares me the most. The scene where Laura Dern goes to turn the power back on and the Velociraptor comes out right there. That's pretty scary.
That's straight like from a alien movie or a Halloween movie. Like it's kind of this dark corridor, and there's just kind of the dinosaur jumps out immediately when the power comes back on. It is terrifying. Sam Jackson's arm,
And I think that's the first time you really do see a Velociraptor.
Oh
and it's like jumping out. And it's very it's very unexpected, especially when you're inside a facility. For a dinosaur to just jump out at you like that, so it's just crazy. And and it jumps out like out of the shadows like a serial killer.
It's like behind like pipes. You don't see anything. It's just
and especially because she assumed the threat was outside. Where
right,
I already forgot his name.
Robert.
He's she thinks that's the threat's all there. She runs away. She's at safety, and
R.I.P. to Mr. Arnold.
But well, and then there's the arm being on her like shoulder, while the Velociraptor's still like trying
Mr.
to
Arnold.
get through that like hey, Sam's like, it's okay, baby. I got
if he was
you.
alive.
It's just a dinosaur.
The cigarette's still lit.
But yeah, when Wayne Knight gets attacked by that thing, it is just very scary. When it like does its like thing with the
I don't know,
whatever that is, it shoots the tar thing at him.
Basically blinds him to where he's like disoriented and can't find his way back to the car. Then just eaten alive by like something way smaller than him. It's so scary.
When it's even to think that like that first reveal when it shoots out that whatever it is at him, it's just even scarier when he's in the car. And of course it's going to be right next to him, but it's still he turns.
I always like hate that so much that like it comes back into the car.
It feels like it's right next to you in that moment.
And then really you just see the car violently shaking around, and he's screaming
because it just goes at him. Then what a creepy creature that thing is.
I also love the shot of the shaving cream and the eggs being buried by mud. It's kind of like
the Barbasol can just bouncing down. I saw someone say that they think Jurassic Park could work if we only bring back the herbivores. It's like that's not a good point. Then you don't have these ones that shoot out this shit and completely devour you. It's possible.
So
if it was just the herds they were staring at in the very beginning, that would be like the ideal Jurassic Park is that image that they're looking at right there. And then they go in deep. They're like, oh shit, carnivores and whatnot.
But a T-Rex will sell tickets.
We have a T-Rex.
I forgot about that line. Oh my god,
it's got to be brought up.
We have a T-Rex.
Can we talk about the scene where Laura Dern and Robert pick up Goldblum?
I was about to get to that. Hammond tells them to go pick up his grandkids because they are out there right now. And they don't have cameras in the cars anymore to see that they're being attacked by the T-Rex. So he has no idea what's going on. But he sends them out there and they're all gone. At least Alan and the kids are gone. But they find Goldblum and they find the pieces of the lawyer.
I think
which we also didn't talk about. The lawyer gets he gets attacked in the bathroom, which is kind of a little It's like kind of a scary scene, but it's also a little like poetic justice, you know.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's
the
kind
movie
of cathartic.
I feel like the movie is like wants you like to enjoy him dying, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I also think there's a that like at the end, the Rex is like very much on like the side of like humanity a lot. It's kind of used as that, you know, like for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he is the saving grace at the end and everything, and it's kind of like the representation of of taking down the system that created him, kind of. The lawyer, yeah, all that stuff. That is true.
Yeah. So eventually like they like they're exploring the situation, and then the T-Rex comes back and Goldblum's like Goldblum's in the car again. And he's like fuck, it's coming back. He's like, I don't want to deal with it. Like, let's go. Come on. Like he sees the water doing it again.
Yeah. It's the same setup again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny because he already went through this.
Yeah.
But it's like
he goes through two phases of it basically.
Yeah, which is hilarious. Like, do you see what's happening here, guys? And of course he's like, they seat him so that he's facing it.
Yeah.
As like the T-Rex is chasing him, so he has to like, he's the closest one, has the best chance of being eaten as like they're driving away.
I love how he like he gets so terrified he like climbs back onto like the gear shift. Don't put it in neutral. Get off the gear.
Right. Get off the gear. Yeah, and Laura Dern also during this chase scene has a great scream as like the Rex is getting very close. Yeah. She's like,
yeah.
And great shots of the T-Rex in the rear view mirror too, as it's chasing them. Yeah.
Which Toy Story 2 spoofs, which we have all talked about together about a year ago.
Good callback.
Yeah.
I know how to defeat Zurg.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a classic Photoshop that I have saved from Reddit from years ago that I needed to bring up here.
Oh, sick.
And that's this one here.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's really good.
That always
Send
brings
that
me
to
joy.
me. We can make that the background of our podcast. That's great.
Good call.
Yeah.
Gonna do that.
That's
nice.
really good.
Yeah, had to bring that up.
Hell yeah.
And then like that scene ends with Goldblum saying, "Do you think he'll have that on the tour?"
Oh jeez.
Is this also when we see Goldblum? I can't remember if this was earlier or not, where he's got his shirt, you know, his
later.
chest hair is just completely exposed.
Right.
He's just laying there glistening.
This is later where they're like that, but we can talk about that now, where like they're talking about like shutting down the system basically to recover undo everything that was done pretty much.
He's incapacitated the rest of the movie, and then they made the decision to make his shirt come off, and that's become a meme too, is like sexy Goldblum.
Well, and he's like that the rest of the film too. Like they like literally lay out the map to the like power like area like on his like body pretty much.
Yeah. He's like moving it off his leg that's bleeding out. He's like, fuck.
Yeah. And meanwhile, like Dr. Grant and the kids are like trying to find their way back, but also like having these weird like I don't know, like childlike experiences with dinosaurs, you know, like that. Like, this is what I was saying. Like this when like Samuel's character really starts to like open up and like to these kids, like he's like when he sees the flock of, he's like a bunch of birds fleeing a predator, you know. Like I just love how
they
I just love
bond
how
over
fascinated
dinosaurs.
he is by all this. Like,
Yeah.
like still, like he's like a child after he was, attacked by the T-Rex. Like he's not like he sees the eggs and he's like, life found a way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Quoted Malcolm there. Yeah.
Yeah.
This,
He's that great line too, where he's talking about how they have to evolve or whatever, and that's right when he's now like embracing the kids for the first time.
Yeah,
you can never look at a bird the same way again.
I bet you'll never look at a bird the same way again.
It is crazy. He's watching a T-Rex devour dinosaurs with like kids,
right? And they all just like they all stand there and stare, and Lex like, I want to go.
Yeah,
it's like. But you'll never look at birds the same way again.
Timmy's like in a trance. He's like, so much blood.
Yeah.
And there's also that, I think it's right before then, but that great bonding moment between the kids and Alan, where
as they fall asleep there by the tree.
Yeah. I think, even before that, when I forget what he's going to do, but Lex is like, he left us, like says that to him, and then he's going
to save Timmy, and Timmy
I'm not going to do that. That's it. Yeah,
that's not what I'm going to do.
There we go. Yeah, right. There it is.
That's the line. He left us.
Yeah, very heartwarming scene. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love how the kind of the fence scene aligns with Laura Dern turning the power back on. I think that's just
so genius.
Like I'm always on the edge of my seat, like when that scene happens.
Yeah, the editing in that sequence is just so perfect in every way. We're just like your heart
like
just
you
pounded.
See like perimeter fence.
Yeah.
It's at the very bottom. Like she's getting to it, and Tim is too scared to get off the fence, and like it's just got that loud. The loud ringing of it.
We joked that Laura Dern committed involuntary manslaughter if Timmy would have died. She turned the power back on.
Yeah. And also that I remember like being young and watching that and thinking, well, of course he's gonna get down. Like that's what happens in movies. He's not gonna get hurt. And then I was like being totally shocked, no pun intended,
genuinely,
that he actually got zapped by the thing. which is a little funny too when he gets zapped by the fence, but Tim really does have a tough time.
The kid gets gonna have a little PTSD after the week.
And I think the next thing we gotta cover is Robert is hunting the raptor.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk about that.
And it's kind of just crazy because the raptor just seems really close by, like it's like right over there.
He's like 10 yards away from a
kind of like 10 yards away, just kind of eyeing him. And I just love the setup and how the other one, like it's just like a diversion, and the other one is just right there from the bush staring at him. And he's kind of like, oh, all right, yeah, you bested. The hunter was bested, the hunter is now the hunted. Like he's almost like kind of like has like kind of like a nod to it before he dies,
Clever girl.
He
like submits to how clever they are. That's what I love in this movie. There's like not a lot of action, like one-on-one, like combat or anything. Like there's stupid new ones.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Gunfights.
The new one is like a war against.
It's a war against dinosaurs. And this is literally the one action scene that gets set up of a one-on-one fight, like ends immediately, and it's just perfect.
Right, and boy does he get destroyed. This guy,
fucking Robert, man.
And I believe we now get to Laura Dern finally seeing Sam Neill again, after he kind of drops them off at the buffet and they realize they start eating and they realize immediately that there's a velociraptor in the building.
The shaking jello.
But I guess Sam Neill is a liar because he does leave them.
That is weird. It is weird that he leaves them at the buffet.
It is weird. It's kind of just to set up this kitchen scene, but and then like he goes to grab a gun but he leaves he does come back right away, but he leaves them with just enough time for two raptors to immediately come after them.
Yeah.
And the kitchen scene is so iconic as well. Like
Classic.
as a kid, I was never more like
Yeah.
into anything than this kitchen scene.
You're really like thrown into their perspective in that scene too, and especially as a kid, like you really feel like you're the ones crawling around.
Yeah, that's what you would do. You'd crawl around, and really, it's only a kid would be able to like survive that scene.
That's why it's so perfect. Yeah. Like when she's like in that dumbwaiter thing, and like she tricks the dinosaur.
Yeah,
that's like only a kid could have done that, and like Tim like slipping on the ice and everything. It's so smart.
I think they're able to survive out of the clumsiness and clumsiness and their size. You know what I mean? Like,
or she screams to like shut the door on them.
Yeah,
she's like, ah.
right. Because he like the freezer's there, and like the one's locked in the freezer. You just see Lex running across the kitchen.
Oh.
Yeah, just that scene, the way it's done, the way the Velociraptor opens the door right after Laura Dern's says, "Oh, I don't know if they'll know how to open doors or not," and it opens the door, and then like it calls for its like buddy. Yeah.
I love how
even just when it looks through like the
when it
whatever kind of window that
breathing
is
along the window, and then you see its like full face.
Yeah.
I love the shot too, where it's like tapping its toe. They're like looking below, and then it feels like human like, where it's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like patiently like seeking out its prey. It feels just it's such a specific moment that adds so
I
much
think
detail.
Almost even Spielberg thinks velociraptors are smarter than they would be, because I do think it is some of this is a little like too like human like, and just the fact that the velociraptors were able to get around this facility with such ease is a little like crazy. Like they follow them everywhere along this facility. There's got to be a place where they would not know how to get in there, you know?
Yeah, it gets to the point where they have to lock like a sealed door to keep them out. Like he's literally pushing a doorknob open. It's just like, how do you stop it?
Yeah. And I guess that's why Sam Neill left them there, because he thought, well, they're not going to get, like, they're safe not get inside here. Like, they're not going to,
exactly.
That's true. Yeah.
And then they proceed to open the door like a human.
Yeah, and even like how they follow them like into the control room, out of the control room, into like the main lobby. Like, how would they know like exactly at the like level that they're at, you know? Like, where did they go? Did they go through the tunnels too? You know, I don't like do they go through the ceiling as well? Like, I have no idea. But anyways, it's still it's very good, and this is like the peak of the film. So like, I just think it's an interesting question to be had is all. And I love the hacking scene is good. Lex gets her moment. She's not just a squealing girl the whole movie.
What does she say? Like, it's a data system or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's a unit system.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I know this stuff. Whatever it is she's doing.
Lex took care of the hacking the mainframe, whatever computer stuff she did.
Actually, yeah, she gets the phones back working. That's a big thing to recall, because then he calls Dr. Hammond and John Hammond, and
I don't think he is like, a doctor, but
are you sure they don't call him Dr. Hammond ever?
Maybe they do, but he's like a business entrepreneur kind of.
All right. He's Mr. Hammond, I think.
Dr. Hammond. It's possible.
But either way, just call the damn helicopters, and then we like you like you see from Hammond's point of view, like he hears like the Velociraptor breaking through the glass, and
gunshots,
and he's like firing him. He's like on the phone. He's like Grunt.
Does he? Grunt.
Yeah. He like yells, like he's like Grunt. It's like great. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So then they're getting attacked by the Velociraptors in like the main like opening, like the opening to the park area, basically.
Yep. They get cornered pretty bad
for the tourism. Yeah, they get cornered by two of them, and they're about to die, and then the T-Rex saves the day, which is a very one of those iconic very poetic endings to this movie.
Yeah, totally.
Then they get picked up, and it's like the first time Sam Neill's like seen Richard Attenborough for like I don't know, they
really
haven't seen each other since that dinner.
Yeah, since they had dinner the night before.
Yeah, and he's like,
I've decided not to endorse your
I've seen things that are not good. And then I just like how it's bookended, like you know how they first get out of the helicopter at the beginning, and
Hammond's reaction.
John Hammond's like he's like looking at the park. He's like, look at my park, and then he kind of before they're about to leave, he gives one last look. He's like, look at my park, you know, like totally different. Like my
totally horrified
dream is
by
falling
it.
apart. Yeah,
even as a kid,
as
a kid, that was something that resonated too. Even just seeing his two different shots that are the same, but his face is different in either one. You're like, oh, it's like that's his character dramatically changes throughout this movie, and that shot's just perfect at the end there.
Yeah, and you kind of like hear like among the island, like the island's very alive and unsettled now, you know, like when like you hear a dinosaur roaring, like
you could hear like
it just feels like noisy and chaotic, right? When we first get there, you couldn't hear shit, like it was like quiet. So yeah, I like that a lot. And then the final shot is, you know, perfect. He's like there with the kids asleep, his new best friends, and he sees
my friends
birds flying out there, and he's like just like a bird.
That's one of my favorite uses of score too, is the piano is quietly sort of building up to the main theme. I think that's just beautiful stuff right there, like the dun, 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 dun. And it kind of it's classic Williams.
It's like a rendition of its own song.
Yeah. And the birds, man.
All right, that is Jurassic Park, everybody.
That's Jurassic Park. Yeah, make sure to listen to the soundtrack after listening to this episode or something. Yeah, it's an all-timer from John Williams.
Yeah, I wish I had that CD just to commemorate the soundtrack with.
That'd be cool. I still have, you know, a callback to Shrek. I still have Shrek CD.
Oh, no way.
At my parents' house, yeah.
Smash Mouth and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's Jurassic
But
Park.
yeah, that's it for today. We'll be back with more shit. Jake's gonna be doing his own thing next time, so he'll be going rogue. This is gonna be the first Cinebums episode without me or John in it, which is a big thing.
This is Jake's pilot here,
passing the baton season off.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't get you guys kicked off the air or anything.
Yeah, don't cancel us. But yeah, excited to hear about Jake's episode coming up. Which, Jake, I don't know if you want to tease at all?
Yeah, I talked about Cronenberg earlier, and I think I will bring a friend on, and we're gonna go deep dive into his new movie, and also probably do like a Cronenberg top 5 sort of deal. So if you're a Cronenberg fan or just a horror fan, definitely tune into that one.
Yeah, look out for that, and then give us a follow on Instagram, Letterboxd, rate us, whatever you need to do. Smash that like button and that
whatever you
subscribe button.
gotta do, do it.
I will
Whatever
do
you
it.
gotta do, just do it.